So hey there to the Bubble family and to people that have perhaps just clicked on this video because you're a little bit curious about what I'm going to talk about. I am a qualified therapist and a trained life coach. I have been doing this for years, and I have been asked by quite a few different sort of members on here or subscribers, how did I get into this? You know, we would like to hear a little bit more about you. So I have ummed and ahed whether to do something like this. And then I thought, well, you know what, actually, yeah, okay, I think I can do it. I can do it. So the reason why I got into therapy, well, I say that I got into therapy to then I become a therapist. So I got into therapy because at the time I was in a pretty low place, which, to be honest, is most of the reasons why somebody does come to therapy. And this was many years ago. And I was also in a pretty, I would say, toxic relationship at the time. And the funny thing was, I didn't see it. I didn't see, it's like I knew I was unhappy, but then there were also moments when I was very happy. And so I think probably due to my own background, I kind of think I normalized it. I felt that, well, this is just kind of what relationships are like. You know, they're not always good, but the thing is, it was either really good or it was really bad. There was kind of like nothing in the middle. And I'm not saying that I didn't have a part to play in that, because like I've said in many videos, it's important that you own your own responsibility and things that I did. And I'm not saying that I was a horrible person in the relationship, but I think some of the things that I certainly did was mainly letting it go on for as long as it did. And I think there were times where, especially if we had arguments, I would get very angry as well. And so, you know, you don't almost end up having these kind of almost like explosive toxic rows that just didn't really get anywhere, and ended up where I'd just be absolutely like sobbing and devastated. And then of course he would, you know, want to make it better, and we break up, get back together, break up, get back together. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's many of you that have been through something of this, the same type of thing. But in my young mind at the time, I believed I loved him, and I think in my own way I did. I guess I didn't understand really what healthy love was, but at the time I was young, and I just thought, well, you know, I love him. And so when we broke up, it was like earth shattering and the end of the world. And then when we got back together, there'll be that honeymoon phase where everything would be like amazing and wonderful again, and you'd kind of feel so in love and like your soulmates, and you know, twin flames. I mean, I've heard it all. And it was around this time, towards the end of that relationship, I'd say, that that I had an event that happened in my life, and it was devastating. And this particular person at the time was just so unsupportive to my need and my grief, I would say, that I couldn't cope. And it felt to me that I just felt so alone. I didn't know where to turn. And I can't exactly remember how it got to a place where I sought out a therapist. But somehow I did. I don't know whether it was my family that said, you know, you need to speak to somebody because I was just in such a bad way, or it was a friend, but I guess somebody probably did. And so I sought out a therapist, and I ended up speaking to this older lady who was, I don't want to say saved my life in a way, but I think, and not in the literal sense, but she saved me, I think, because I was sliding down a path that I felt that I couldn't stop myself from going down. And it was almost like she was in a way, she was the buffer. She was the buffer that was on that, in almost like sliding down, and she was there. And she kind of was like, nah, stopping you. And I was quite resistant, I'll be honest, initially. I felt pretty silly, like some of the things that they teach you to do. And one of them was, it's like the empty chair, where you picture a person sitting in this chair and you have that conversation with them. I felt so stupid for doing that. I didn't like doing it, and I was really resistant. And in the end, I think she got quite cross with me, and she said, look, if you don't push through this resistance, it's not going to work. Why are you here? And of course I was like, well, I want to feel better, and I'm crying, and, and I want to feel better. And she's like, do you feel better? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, do you know why that is? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, because you're resisting the therapy. It's, you've got to push past that. And I guess eventually I did. And I remember her, telling me that I wasn't crazy, and because I would say things like, I'm told I'm crazy, I'm mental, I'm this, I'm that, and she's like, you're not. You've just been through a huge amount in your life, and unfortunately, it's accumulated, and it's got to this one event, and you've almost like had a breakdown, and it's just been too much. And so kind of when she put it in perspective, and we just sort of did a lot of talking, and she really helped me see that I think I suppose I slowly started to feel better. And one of the significant changes was I started to see the relationship that I was in with this particular person. I started to see the truth. I was changing. And of course, what happens then is that they see the change. So my partner at the time, he could start to see, because I think I was starting to fight back. I was starting to kind of not put up with things. And at one point, I remember him saying to me, and it's so clear as day to me, he was standing in my kitchen at the time, and I remember I was doing something, and he sort of was standing by the door because he smoked, and he was a smoker. So he was standing at the door, and he said to me, I don't think I want you going to therapy anymore. He said, you're changing and I don't like it. It's like, I don't think it's working. I think it's affecting you worse. And what was interesting is that in my therapy sessions, at one point, she said that she brought up an example of relationships. And I distinctly remembered her saying that sometimes people, they also don't like it when someone goes to therapy, because even though initially they think it's the answer, what happens is that person starts to change, and so they then become scared of the change. And I remembered her saying that, and so I looked at him and I just said, you're scared of my change. And he made a joke, and he was like, I'm not scared of your money, because obviously here in the UK we call change money. And I just looked at him, and I didn't laugh, and I just looked at him and I said, you're scared. And I remember him looking at me, and he said, I'm not scared of anyone. And I said, no, I'm not saying you're scared of anyone. I said, but you are scared of me changing. And he was like, no, I'm not. He said, I just think, you're not the same person. You're not the person I fell in love with. And I said, no, I'm not. And then we had this kind of discussion, and I remember then looking at him, and I just said to him, get out. And he looked at me and he smirked, and he's like, what do you mean? I just said, get out. And he's like, what do you mean get out? And I was like, leave. And he sort of shrugged his shoulders, and he was like, okay, and then he's like, oh, I'll see you tomorrow. And I went, no, actually you won't. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, we're done. And I remember he looked at me with this really shocked expression, and he went, no, we're not. And I just went, yes, we are. And then he laughed, and he went, oh, you'll have me back. Because I suppose I'd always had him back, no matter what he'd done. And I went, no, I won't. And I remember to this day, this flicker of, I guess it was almost like him going, I'm not sure this time. There was like a fear. There was, but of course he was kind of, bravado, and it was like, yeah, you'll have me back. And so anyway, he left, and I never did have him back. And he tried everything. I mean, he come up with every lie, every manipulation. My mum's got cancer. It's, you know, there was numerous things that he tried. But I changed. And in that moment, it was like this light had gone on, and I realized I was worth so much more. Now, I would like to say that I didn't make mistakes after that, but I did. But in that moment, I felt powerful. I felt vindicated. I felt I can take on the world. I can do this. And of course, then there were moments afterwards. But I mean, I stuck to it. But there were still moments where I panicked and I thought, oh my God, have I done the right thing? Because I went into like what I know now, obviously, the training that I've had is like default. And obviously this fear of kind of being on my own, or, you know, because I hadn't worked on myself fully then. And it's a long process. And so I went into kind of different, oh gosh, you know, what have I done? And then I put, you know, there were times I kind of would go on dates, even though I wasn't ready to get back into a relationship, but then there was that fear of being alone. So I would do those things. But eventually, I guess the therapy, you know, it would, you know, was working, and I started to kind of realize, you know, I needed to take this time. And it was around that time, I'm sorry, long-winded, I know, but around that time that I thought, I want to do this. I want to do this for people. I feel like this is something I could do. And so I spoke to my therapist about it, and I said, you know, and she said to me, you know what, I agree. I think this is something you could be very good at. And so she kind of helped me like find like the introductory course, which is what I did. So it was the introductory course, which is kind of like, it gives you a little taster of looking at yourself and, you know, what it might look like if you were kind of wanting to go into being a therapist. And so I did that course and I loved it. And so then the next stage then was doing the intermediate, which was then at college. And that was was that a 2-year course, or was that no, it was a year course. So that was a year course, and I did that. And so then the next bit was, which was a scary bit, which was then kind of going, oh my God, I'm going to uni. And obviously you have to sign, you know, you have to fill in all the forms, and then you have the interview and things like that. And so it's kind of not a done deal. You don't just walk out of that course and kind of go, yeah, I'm going off to uni now. It's like, it's a thing, you know, you have to have the, you know, the forms, the interviews, you've got to set up your funding, and it's a big thing. And of course you've got to remember at this point, I'm a mum, you know, so, and I've got a kid that's got autism, and, you know, and I've got my other kid, and it's like, so I'm kind of juggling. But around this time I did then meet somebody, and I did get into this other relationship, which was a lovely relationship. However, so that was, in a way, I was helped in him being supportive in looking after my kids while I was at uni and things like that. So I was in a good place. I was in a good place. But the course was a whole different ball game to what I had gone through in college. The person, you know, you're dealing with a mixture of personalities, and you kind of sit around in this circle, and you have this group where you're kind of exposing aspects of yourself that's quite vulnerable. And I think because I'd had the therapy before, I kind of felt like, no, I'm okay. There's nothing really that I need to worry about, or nothing's really going to come up for me. Oh boy, was I wrong. I would say it was the most challenging few years in that first stage of, well, not my life as such, but just kind of my adult life, as you know, later on. I was challenged by people. I challenged myself. I talked about things that I never even remembered before. Things were coming up all over the place. I was emotional. I wanted to give up. So while I was there, I then had my diagnosis of my illness, and that was the hardest thing for me, because my whole world was turned upside down. Because when I first got told I had this, I had the impression that I kind of was like, right, okay, that's great. I've got this diagnosis. What next? What tablet do I take? What operation do I have to fix it? And of course they go, it's incurable. And it was that moment you're kind of like, what? Wait, how is that possible in this day and age? I've got something that's incurable. And of course then they say things like, well, we don't know enough about it. There's, it's not that common, because back then it wasn't. And in 5 years it could be possible that you could be in a wheelchair. And I think at that point it was blurry, and it's interesting because I hear a lot of my clients say things like this, like people talking about like things like that. You kind of go into this, like almost like their voice goes, you zone out. And I remember zoning out, and I remember not really taking anything in, where to the point where afterwards I was kind of like, I wish I'd recorded it so I could remember what they'd said. And so I didn't know how to deal with this, and I didn't deal with this very well at all. The partner that I was with at the time didn't deal with this very well at all. And I'll be honest, I didn't make it easy. I can't put all the blame on him. I went really into my shell. I didn't communicate all the things that I was learning. I didn't know how to do. It was almost like everything I kind of learned up until then, I just went gone. I felt sorry for myself. And all these are valid. I'm not saying that I was wrong, because when you go through something like this, there isn't a right way to deal with it. I think we just deal with it however we deal with it. But for me, I don't think I dealt with it very well, and I think that put a lot of pressure on my partner at the time, and he didn't deal with it very well. And I guess we had sort of arguments where he's like, I didn't sign up for this. We hadn't been together that long, and I understood that. Well, I understand that now. At the time, I didn't, because in my mind, it's kind of like, you love me, you should stick with me. And in some ways, I stand by that. I think if somebody does really love you, they would stand by you through everything. And so what that probably tells me is he didn't love me as much as what he probably believed he did. And I don't blame him for that. But at the time I was hurt. He left me. He did leave me, but it wasn't the fact that he left me in the possibly the worst way. Because in the way it was, my boys had got used to him, and we were engaged, and we'd been together a little. I say he left me. He didn't leave me straight away. He left me a few years after it, the diagnosis. And he left me 2 weeks before Christmas. And anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge Christmas person. So this was horrendous for me. So then trying to get through Christmas, being back to being a single parent again, juggling. Then I had uni, and so juggling everything basically. But I did it. I got through it. I got through Christmas. I thought, what, if I can get through Christmas and I can do this, I can, because the one thing I will say, and anyone that knows me will say, that I might have moments when I fall down. I have moments when I cry and I feel like I can't cope, but then something kicks in, and it's almost like I have this internal give myself a kick up the backside, and I'm like, no, you're not going to let them win. And I fight back, and I'm like, no, yeah, you can do this. You've got two options. You're either just going to stay here lying on the ground and crying, or you're going to get yourself back up and you're going to get through this. You're going to heal from this, and you're going to move on and do whatever comes next. And so that's what I have pretty much done my whole life. And I did it this time. So I carried on. I put myself through uni again. And I got my BA honours, and I completed, and I was so proud of myself. But yeah, so it was an amazing, I think it was an achievement that I'd done it. It was something that I had done for me, and I proved to myself that I was capable of coming through the other side. And I'm always of the belief that to be a good therapist is to have gone through some of these things and to have worked through them and come out the other side. Because how can I then say this to other people if I've not done it myself? And like I said, I would like to say that even being a therapist, I don't make mistakes, and I have not messed up when it comes to relationships, because I absolutely have. After that relationship, I did get myself into another relationship, and I didn't see the signs, or I didn't want to acknowledge the signs. I'm not quite sure which, and that didn't go very well either. But however, I then recognised there was a pattern, and I thought, okay, there's a pattern here when it comes to me dating. I need to stop this. I need to focus on myself. I feel like there's never really been a time when I've really fully focused on myself. My boys are adults now, so I need to take this time to really focus on me. Be selfish. And when I say selfish, it's selfish in a good way. It's like really just kind of look at myself and my needs and what I want out of life. I didn't want to have to share that at the moment with somebody else, because when I'm in a relationship, I do go all in, and sometimes, rightly or wrongly, I put my needs to one side. And as a mum, of course, you do that. So it was time for me to kind of actually, do you know what, put my needs first. And so that's what I've done over the last, I suppose, 4 years. I have totally focused on my work, myself, trying to find ways to cope with my illness. And that's not always been easy, but I feel that I have got a better handle on it now than what I did have before. Trying to find means, because there are operations that can be had. Unfortunately, they're not. The more viable ones are abroad, but so of course then when the pandemic happened, that became something that couldn't happen. But hopefully now that is a possibility in the future. And then of course, but within that, then I started the YouTube channel, because obviously in the lockdown everything dried up, everything stopped, so I had to find a way to keep going, keep doing the work that I'm doing, and have a way to give back still and talk to people still. And I thought there has to be something. And so the initial YouTube channel started with the help of somebody else, albeit it wasn't initially going to be that. It was they came and said, would you like to do this? Have you ever thought about doing a YouTube channel? And I was like, no. And they were like, well, would you like to pair up and do one? And I was like, why not? So we did. Obviously, as most of you now that know, that didn't work out too well. And so then I started up on my own, and I am so glad I did. It was one of the best decisions I think I have ever made in doing a YouTube channel. And after navigating and going through some horrendous trolling and bullying, as most of you know, thanks to a certain person, but again, I'm a fighter. I'll come out the other side of that. I won't be beaten by anybody. If I decide to not do it, then I've decided, but I won't have someone decide that for me. Now, I might be vocal in I'm sad and I'm upset and I'm sorry, or whatever it is that I'm honestly gonna say on here, but I will never ever bow down to someone who feels that they can be a bully, to bully me off a channel. TikTok's different because I don't really care enough about TikTok, but I care about this channel. I care about the people that I have come to know, the people that I am yet to know. I care about this channel as if it was like my little baby as such. I you know, I know it's hard for people to say, you know, how can you love and respect and appreciate people that you don't really know? But I can, because I respect the fact that you take the time to watch these videos. I respect the fact that you support what I do here. I respect the fact that you buy my merchandise or send me something at the PO box. I love the fact that you send me letters and emails, and you support me, or you debate with me on in the comments, or you support another person when you see that they're down. It's all of those things, which is why I call us the bubble family, because when we were in lockdown, and that's for the people who don't understand what the bubble family is, when we were in lockdown, you could get together with someone in your bubble. So it was your work bubble, or your family bubble, or your friend bubble. And so I think somebody on here said, oh, you know, it's like we're in a bubble. And so it was kind of like, you know, you're our bubble sisters, or you're our bubble whatever. And so the bubble family just was born. And so that's why I say at the beginning of my videos, hi bubble family, welcome back to the channel. And so to be part of this bubble family is a big thing. And, you know, because we are a little community and we do care about each other. And I do go through as many of the comments, or admittedly, as the channel is growing, it's a lot harder. But I do go through the comments to make sure that no one is bullying somebody, that if there's somebody that is struggling, that I pin that comment to the top and get other people to come in and support that. And it's within this that I am working, trying to work outside of the channel. In my hope is that this channel will grow and grow and grow and grow. And the money that comes in from this channel, I can use to pay my bills and to give back, to do the things that I've always wanted to do. But the biggest thing is to help people that struggle financially. Now, at the moment, I'm able to do that, but only on a very, very small scale, because this channel is nowhere near big enough. So I'm still working with, obviously, my clients that I work that's separately to this. But I do take on 5 people at a time. So I have 5 people that I take on, that I work with for free, because they struggle financially. And then as soon as one person drops, I then take on another person. So I'm always working with 5 people. And in amongst that, I also then answer emails, and I try to keep on top of things. And if people just want a bit of advice, I try and give that, because like I've always said, I think mental health support, I mean, I don't want to take away from the people that do charge, because I charge, you know, I do charge. I mean, I'm not astronomical, but I do. And people have to earn a living, and they've worked hard for that qualification. So I'm not taking away from those people, but I do feel that there is an element where we can utilise what we have to give back to people that really struggle, because people do slip through the net. They do. There's no two which ways about it. I hear it enough in my work to know that yes, there are places you can go for free therapy, but the waiting list is astronomical. And then you've got the flip side of that, which is private therapy, which in some cases can be so expensive. And I know in some places they have insurance, but even then it's really hard still. And you've got to find the right therapist, because you might get allocated a therapist and they just don't work for you. So then you've got to go back on the waiting list again. And so it's a bit of a minefield. And I think there should be more places that I feel that this should be really open to everybody. And it saddens me when I hear that people are not able to get help. So as much as I'm only one person and there's only so much I can do, I would love to create something that, you know, I don't know, that was so big that I could employ therapists and then help people like in the community and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, that's a pipe dream and way down there. I mean, I'm just a little old me right now, but yeah, so that's the aim, and that's what I would like to do. But in the meantime, I love doing what I'm doing, and at some point, while I'm still able to, I would like, if I could, to travel around and meet people. I'd love to do talks. I would love to go and do a talk and have people come, and and kind of hear what I, you know, have to say on a subject, or, you know, if they wanted to know how to you know, work on, you know, how to date, how to work on relationships and things like that. The knowledge that I've accrued over the years, I would love to give that back and help people. That's not happened as yet. Might do later on in the down the line, who knows. If I become more successful, you know, you never know. And so, of course, on top of that, I am going to be starting my true crime channel, which, because I've had so many people say, you know, I'd really love your take on XYZ. And so I thought, you know what, actually, that's a good one. And I'm very passionate about things like that. I do love reading about, maybe it sounds to me a bit weird, actually, reading about serial killers and things like that, and how their brain works, and what took them to get to that place and stuff like that. So yeah, so that is going to be coming along. Thank you for being very patient with me in watching this video. I hope that, you know, it's answered some of your questions, and if you have questions, please put them in the comments below, and I will try and answer as many as I possibly can. You know, if you are thinking of becoming a therapist, and you know, especially in the UK, because I'm not so clued up on stuff in the States or elsewhere in the world, but if you are thinking of doing this in the UK and you'd like, you know, to ask me some questions, please drop me an email, or everything will be in the description box below. Yeah, so I hope that you've enjoyed this little take on how I got to be a therapist. What the future holds, I don't know. I'm open to pretty much most things. I just know that right now I'm excited. I love what I do here. I am hoping that I will get this operation, which will give me a better quality of life in going out and about. And so, yeah. Glad I said it all now. I can breathe. So I hope that you, like I say, I hope you have enjoyed this, and you, like I say, you've got to know me a little bit more. But feel free to put something in the comments. Something else I wanted to add as well. Apparently, I think HG Tudor did this, but apparently to help the algorithm, he said that if you go and watch, I think, 2 of my videos that you perhaps haven't watched before, or if you have watched all of my videos, you're amazing if you have, but you haven't commented, then go and comment on 2 of my videos, because apparently this gives the algorithm a bit of a boost. So if you could do that, that would be amazing, but if you don't want to, that's okay too. So don't forget, if you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and you really would like to, then please do. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a cup of tea, you can become a member, or you can become a Patreon, or just simply subscribe, and that helps me too. If you want to send me something, and like I've said, if you have an up-and-coming venture, or you are starting a little business and you want to send me something that I can promote on here, then please do. I will happily showcase that on here, or even just mention it if you would like a little mention. If you're starting your own YouTube channel and you want me to give you a little shout out on here, then again, please do, and I will do that. But as always, thank you so much for your time, your support. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate everything that you do to spend these moments listening to me waffle on, should I say. And it truly means a lot to me, because without you, I would not have this channel, and I'm always eternally grateful for that. So have a wonderful weekend, whatever you are doing. Stay safe and warm, or wrapped up, you know, or not if it's warm where you are. But just, you know, just be amazing, and just know that you are loved somewhere in the world. So take care, and I love you, I appreciate you, but most of all, I respect you. Mwah. Take care, Bubble family.